On December 15, 2022, a coolant leak was detected on the Soyuz MS-22 spacecraft docked at the International Space Station. The leak has forced NASA and Russia's space agency Roscosmos to cancel the planned spacewalk and evaluate the potential impacts on the integrity of the Soyuz. With the safety of the crew on the line, NASA is now considering using SpaceX as a backup option to bring the crew back to Earth. Stay tuned to find out more about the coolant leak and the potential impact on the crew's return to Earth. The Soyuz spacecraft is one of the most well-known and reliable spacecrafts in the history of human spaceflight. The Soviet Union developed the Soyuz spacecraft in the 1960s, and it has since been used for a variety of missions, including transporting astronauts to and from the orbiting International Space Station. During the Cold War, the Soyuz was used to demonstrate the Soviet Union's technological advancements while competing with the United States Apollo program. The spacecraft also played an important role in the Soviet Union's space station program, launching the first modular space station, Salyut-1, in 1971. Despite the Cold War's end, the Soyuz spacecraft has remained an important part of human spaceflight. The Soyuz is now primarily used to transport crew members to and from the International Space Station. Since the launch of the first ISS module in 1998, the spacecraft has been used for over 50 manned missions and has been continuously used for manned flights. The Soyuz spacecraft is critical to the ISS's emergency evacuation plan. In the event of an emergency, the ISS is equipped with two Soyuz spacecraft that serve as lifeboats for the crew. These spacecraft are always docked to the ISS and ready for use at any given time. In an emergency, the crew would have to leave the ISS and return to Earth in one of these spacecraft. On December 15, 2022, mission controllers at the International Space Station noticed a stream of particles escaping from the instrument assembly compartment of the Soyuz MS-22 spacecraft docked at the ISS. Further investigation revealed this was a coolant leak from the spacecraft's thermal control system aft end. The coolant leak lasted at least 3 hours and forced the cancellation of a spacewalk by 2 Russian astronauts at the very last minute. The coolant leak on the Soyuz MS-22 spacecraft is a major concern because it could jeopardize the return flight of the 3 crew members who are currently on board the ISS. One potential cause of the leak is a micrometeoroid strike, also known as a tiny meteoroid. These are small space rocks that are naturally occurring in the space environment. They zip through the solar system in random directions, causing little or no significant damage to the ISS or other spacecraft protected by advanced shielding. However, it is possible that a micrometeoroid struck the Soyuz MS-22 radiator, causing the leak. Some researchers believe that a hardware failure could be the source of the leak as well. The Soyuz spacecraft was launched on September 21, 2022, and it's possible that it also suffered a mechanical failure. The investigation will reveal the precise cause of the leak. The spacecraft is currently docked at the ISS and its temperatures remain within acceptable limits. The ISS crew is not in any immediate danger now, and there have been no other changes in the telemetric parameters of either the MS-22 or the ISS as a result of this incident. The Russian space corporation Roscosmos and the US space agency NASA are collaborating to determine the next step. In the event that the Soyuz is unable to safely return to Earth, NASA has a number of options for returning the ISS crew. One option is to use a rescue Soyuz spacecraft. This option comes with its own set of difficulties, however. The rescue Soyuz, for example, would have to wait until the next scheduled launch, which would not be until February of 2023. This delay would put the crew members at risk because they would have to extend their stay on the ISS until the launch of the rescue. The best option for NASA is to use SpaceX as a backup option for returning the crew. With the successful launch of the Crew Dragon spacecraft, SpaceX has already proven to be a dependable partner for NASA. This spacecraft is intended to transport crew members to and from the International Space Station, and it has the capability of adding seats. Dragon spacecraft could return the crew to Earth in much less time than a Soyuz spacecraft. Also, SpaceX could help with the crew's return by providing additional resources to the ISS. The company has already demonstrated its ability to deliver cargo to the ISS, and it could also provide additional resources like oxygen, water, and food, which are critical for the crew's survival in the event of an emergency. But there's a problem. A very big problem. The possibility of using SpaceX for the rescue mission of the Soyuz has been met with mixed reactions from Russia. Some officials from Russia's space agency have expressed support for the plan, recognizing SpaceX's capabilities and the potential benefit for the crew's safe return. Others, however, have criticized the proposal, interpreting it as a lack of faith in the Soyuz spacecraft and Russia's space program. One of the major concerns is the possible impact on NASA's relationship with Russia's space agencies. Russia's space program has a long history, and the Soyuz spacecraft is a symbol of its triumphs. Using SpaceX for the rescue mission could be deemed as a blow to Russia's pride and a shift away from their traditional role in human spaceflight. NASA and Roscosmos also have a long history of collaboration, but the recent successful launches of NASA's SpaceX Crew Dragon, however, have altered the dynamic of this collaboration. Using SpaceX for the rescue mission could tip the balance of power and influence in spaceflight further, in favor of the private sector, putting Russia at a disadvantage. Besides that, some have expressed reservations about the cost and logistics of using SpaceX. The Soyuz spacecraft is proven and reliable and has been used for many years and is already in place for the rescue mission. Using SpaceX would necessitate additional resources, planning, and coordination, potentially delaying the crew's return. You might be wondering, what are the emergency evacuation procedures? The first step in an emergency is to assess the situation and determine the severity of the problem. If the situation becomes critical, the crew will immediately begin the evacuation of the ISS. The evacuation plan specifies a series of actions that the crew must take, such as turning off non-essential systems and activating life support. The crew will then proceed to the Soyuz spacecraft, the ISS's lifeboat in the event of an emergency. Once the crew is safely inside the Soyuz, they will initiate the undocking process and begin their descent back to Earth. The Soyuz is designed to land on land, allowing the crew to leave the spacecraft immediately after the land. NASA and the other international space agencies collaborate closely to plan an emergency evacuation. NASA is in charge of monitoring the crew's health and well-being, as well as providing the crew with the necessary support during the evacuation process. Other space agencies, like the Roscosmos, are in charge of providing the necessary resources, like the Soyuz spacecraft, to ensure the crew's safe return. And now, in this case, using SpaceX will be a big blow to the Roscosmos' ego. There have also been incidents and accidents aboard space stations throughout the history of human spaceflight, and some of them even involved Russia. In 1997, an incident occurred on the Russian space station Mir. A fire broke out in the Kvant 1 module of the station, filling it with smoke and toxic fumes. The fire was quickly extinguished and prevented from spreading by the crew of 2 cosmonauts. Another incident occurred in 2013 when an Italian astronaut on the International Space Station broke his ankle during a spacewalk. The astronaut was able to return to Earth safely and was treated for injuries, but the incident prompted NASA to review its spacewalk procedures and training. One of the most serious incidents occurred in 2018, when a hole in the Soyuz MS-9 spacecraft docked to the ISS was discovered. The hole was caused by a man-made drill, which the crew was able to repair with epoxy. The incident caused a drop in cabin pressure and required a spacewalk to fix the problem. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and hey, watch these ones as well.